All right, welcome back. You know, we've got two data points that have been confounding people like me who believe this economy is inflicting pain on a lot of folks on Main Street. I've mentioned them before. It's the unemployment rate and the stock market performance, right? I asked someone the other day to describe to me how well this economy is doing without citing the jobs or the stock market. And it was pretty difficult for him, right? The S&P index can attribute 30% of its gains to just 7 stocks. That's 7 stocks out of 500 stocks. What about the other 493? When you know the details, things don't look as rosy as folks want to paint that picture. Now, the jobs numbers have been more difficult to explain until now. A New Zealand government statistician noted that with the household survey responses dropping to 60%, the U.S. economic data is becoming less reliable. The U.S. non-farm payrolls are now based off a survey with a 42% response rate. Now, that's the second bit of news that refutes these jobs numbers. Now, the first is this chart, and from the St. Louis Fed. Look how it tanks in the far right. It shows payroll taxes are down 20%. Payroll taxes are down 20%. Wait, what? We might be onto something here. My next guest sure is. Please welcome into the show Scott Bauer, coming to us from the CBOE trading floor in Chicago. All right, Scott. This one got really spurred on this morning when Ashley and I had talked to somebody yesterday saying that the payroll taxes for the first quarter of this year were down 20%. How in the world do we have payroll taxes? So that's taxes on people's pay come off 20% when they're telling us that you can't find anybody to work, everybody's got a job, and there's no unemployment rate. I don't get it.
No, Scott, neither do I, but it goes right with the theme that you and I have discussed so many times over probably the last year at least, that all of the data points we're getting from the government, from the Fed, in terms of wages, in terms of CPI, in terms of unemployment numbers, we don't really know what these numbers are, and we haven't since we've come out of the pandemic, since we've come out of COVID, right? Nobody has ever seen this. The Fed heads obviously never have been through this. So all of those metrics should be thrown out the window. And you and I have talked about that before, whether it's the wage data, whether it is unemployment, non-farm, whether it's CPI. We don't know what is right. And the contention that I have had for the last 18, 24 months with the Fed is that they're still going off historical metrics, which worked beautifully up until we shut down. Now, they're still going off of that. They're not looking at what's happening on Main Street. They're not looking at what's happening to the average American. And that's why I believe we're in the conundrum that we're in.
Yeah, it just speaks to this big bifurcation that we're seeing. And I'll put numbers on it. I think, look, I am humble enough to know that I'm not always right, and I try to somehow refute my own beliefs. I try to refute some of my own beliefs by looking for data that would go against what I have to say. And that was the jobs number and unemployment. I mean, the unemployment and stock market, right? Those are the two that I've been really having a hard time trying to refute. But I think there's some decent information out there that we just brought to light that kind of helps explain some of that away. But I also do know one thing, Scott. 2/3 of this country feel like we're in a recession. You go anywhere. I mean,
yes.
3 adults in my car just had 3 chicken sandwiches at Wendy's and with fries, no drinks, $32. I still can't get over that, right? If that's happening to everybody every day, we got a problem out there. And the bifurcation results from the folks at the top are now benefiting from this 7 stocks out of 500 that are really rallying, bringing up these indices, just like the NASDAQ was up 33% the first 6 months of the year. They're all benefiting from this inflationary environment, interest rates going up 5%. They're the ones, like Adam Johnson just said, that can buy the 5% one-year treasury with $1 million and make 50 grand on it, right? The rest of America can't. A lot of Americans don't even have anything in the stock market, and let alone they just want to keep their job. So that's what frustrates me.
And that's the skew that we see, and that's the skew that we've seen with the whole wage issue and the whole employment issue here that, like you said at the top here, can't find a job out there. Well, if you can't find a job and the job market is so robust, then how do we see that 20% lower number of payroll taxes? It just doesn't make sense. And what that means is all of the data points out there point to there being, as you said, such a bifurcation between top and bottom or top and middle class here. And God, I hate to be, Pollyanna here, but Scott, there are so many things out here that just they're going to come home to roost, and this is one of them.
Yeah, and I think that, I'll say it because you won't, but I mean, you've got the experience. You used to trade at Goldman Sachs. I mean, a lot of people will hear that name and their ears will perk up. And so a person of your stature that sees like these types of things, you kind of have to take note because we've been doing it for over 35 years, Scott. And I can't ignore all the little things that I'm seeing that are telling me, be careful, be careful, be careful, be careful. But then when I turn on the television, it's like, there's going to be no recession. Everything's awesome. If your grandmother dies and gives you $5 million and, put it all in the market. I can't sign up for that.
No, there's no question about it. But let me just point something out here on just a little bit of a contrary to that. Even with today, we've got this little sell-off, probably, Netflix and Tesla causing the sell-off in the market today. There's no panic out there whatsoever. Not that there should be. We've got a minor sell-off. There's no panic out there. Volatility is still extremely low. Behind me here is the S&P 500 options pit. It is relatively quiet. So there is this complacency out there,
yes.
And I think that is exacerbating the problem that we're going to have to pay the piper down the road because all of a sudden, everyone's going to get hit in the face.
Yep.
And that time, unfortunately, in my opinion, is going to happen sooner rather than later.
Right, as Mike Tyson said, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face. All right. Thanks a lot, Scott, for coming to us from the CMUE floor in Chicago. He's with